without followers, you're just a florist. A dying florist from Edmonton.
Probably a crazy person.
So take me through some of his followers, because they're a very eclectic group.
Well, Cal McIntyre is a failed pro hockey player from Saskatchewan. He's originally from Thunder Bay, but he's now playing in Saskatoon. And Maha is a 17-year-old girl from the West Island of Montreal, and she's had an unfortunate incident, the worst possible time when you're in the final years of high school and you're involved in a public sex act. It changes everything for you. And her parents are devout Muslims, and she's had a hard time. And so when Stanley comes to her, as he does, she's thrilled, it seems, more than the others, to change her life. Tanya Gervais is a television or media executive living in Vancouver, and she's perhaps the most special of the followers, the most unlikely to follow him, and she does. And then Alok is an old friend of Stanley's. He had married Stanley's sister, Kitty, and had taken with the New Age movement and had moved to Toronto. So Stanley actually calls him when he discovers his powers as an advisor or a guidance counselor to tell him what is actually happening to him in the New Age cosmos.
Tanya, I started thinking in my head as Pontius Pilate episode, because she was so much into the media buzz and how can we make money off this, and it was just all the exterior stuff. There was no interior stuff.
Yeah, well, when it did show up, she resisted it, and it sort of turned her to mush for a while, so she had to push it out. And I think Tanya represents what many of us, I think, our instincts would be if we saw something like this. We're taught, and our society forces us to think of everything we do and everything we have as a commodity. So if suddenly you're very close to a person who could perhaps be the most famous individual in the world, her thoughts were, okay, how can I make some money off this? How can I make myself special within their globe? And I have a lot of actual sympathy for Tanya, because I understand that a lot of us would go that way.
She's ambitious, and Stan isn't the least bit.
No, where he is ambitious, he appreciates her. He sort of understands that he does have to market himself, that it's a world of marketing noise, and in order to get the word out, something has to be done. If it weren't for the event at the Banff Center where he introduces himself to the world, he never would introduce himself to the world, because really his followers were already there. So in order to bring the people to him, he needs Tanya, and understands that she's necessary, and forgives her in a sense, at least in the beginning.
Yeah, Stan, he's a messiah with such a simple message that it's almost not a message.
I didn't want to create a novel that was an argument for religion or against religion. I wanted to create a sort of a realistic novel about a completely unrealistic notion that an unrealistic notion that 90% of North Americans believe in a sense. So what would someone who's chosen today, just as the messiahs of the past were chosen, what would they do? What would they think? And I think in a sense we've already talked ourselves out of religion. It's now politics and morality instead of what it once was, belief really, and a way to transcend ourselves.
How do you both be a non-believer and a believer at the same time? Because the book is about a non-believer who
can't help but believe,
and believers who can't help but realizing that, and it's just very tough. There's non-belief. There's belief in non-belief and non-belief in belief. So you really flip the whole thing. Sometimes I got very confused.
Well, I think that's the way I feel, and that's the way a lot of us feel. I think we're believers and non-believers all the time, and that's the center. If we're talking about religion, it's kind of the central conflict of 2007, because we know that it's beautiful to believe. A lot of the great artworks of Western, or actually world history, have come out of belief. Spiritualism, it's in our genes. We have an instinct for it. You don't walk under ladders, and you don't want to stay on the 13th floor, and black cats walking in front of you. We're still apes in our belief system. We really love that stuff. We can't help it. Yet at the same time, we're mapping the human genome, and we're changing the world we live in with science, and understand that the world is not 8,000 years old, it's billions of years old. And so these conflicts, I think, are driving people a bit nuts. And that's what I wanted the book to represent, in a sense. So it is confusing. There's no easy way to answer that question, whether being agnostic is okay. Agnostic not only as individuals, but as a society. I think we're an agnostic society. As much as we truly believe, we don't believe.
I don't feel any better having read the book, but I don't feel much worse.
Oh, good.
Is that okay?
It's absolutely okay. No, I don't want to write novels that necessarily make you feel better, but if the book asks you questions that you enjoy asking, or that allow you to maybe understand the way you feel about belief and non-belief, then I think it succeeds.
The book is The Book of Stanley. I've been speaking with the author, Todd Babiak, and The Book of Stanley, published by McCollum & Stewart.